Okay, last one for the non-calculator 2008 multiple choice section. Okay, rumor spreads among a population of n people at a rate proportional to the product of the number of people who've heard the rumor and the number of people who have not heard the rumor. If P is the number of people who've heard the rumor, P equal the number of people who have heard rumor, then n minus P, because n is the total number of people, is the number of people not heard rumor. And it says it's the rumor spreads at a rate proportional to the product. Let's see, is the number of people heard. If P is the number of people heard the rumor, which of the following could be used to model the situation with respect to time, where K is a constant? Okay, well, the rate of change of the people who have heard the rumor is dp dt, and it says that is proportional, K, to the product of people who have heard the rumor and the people who have not. Okay, that makes sense? Kind of an interesting question, but it's a differential equation because it's saying that the rate is proportional. They want you to realize that the rate is proportional to the product, and the rate of people who know it is dp dt. So that's the key that they want you to see on this one. Okay, next one. What's the solution here? It's got to be able to do differential equations, so you have to separate the variables. So you got to get the y's on one side and the x's on the other, multiplied by dx, x squared dx. Then you integrate both sides. So you get y squared over 2 equals x cubed over 3 plus a constant. You can just put the one constant on one side. So you have on both, you subtract and you end up with one constant over there. Solve for y, and you get y squared, here multiplied by 2, you get y squared equals 2/3 x cubed plus some new constant, we call it c1, and then I'm going to take the square root, and I get y equals the square root of 2/3 x cubed plus c1. Now this is actually plus or minus. Now notice, since if I plug in x equals 3, and then y is negative 2, if I plug in the 3 for x, y is going to be negative 2, so my plus or minus is really just minus, because it's going to be the negative root for my answer, because my y value is negative. 2/3, 3 cubed plus c1. And actually someone pointed out in class when we did this, well, without even figuring out what c, it's got to be that, because that's the only negative root. It looks like this, unless of course c happens to end up being 0. So you probably ought to go ahead and do this in case c ends up being 0. So let's go ahead and do this. So you get negative 2 equals negative square root of 2/3 times 3 times 3 is 9 times 3 is 27 plus c1, so negative 2 equals, actually I'm going to go ahead and square both sides. So I get 4 equals 9 times 2 is 18 plus c1. c1 equals negative 14. So now I know it's e. Okay. 24. F is twice differentiable. What's the value of the approximation of f of 1.19 using the tangent line to the graph of f at x equals 2? Well, at x equals 2, what's the equation of the tangent line? It's going to be at 2. Well, what is f of 2? It's 1. So it'd be y minus 1. And the slope is f prime at 2. That's 4 times x minus 2? This is a great question to see if you really kind of get what's going on. So this is the equation of the tangent line. Now I want to know what's approximation for f of 1.9. Well, that's x is 1.9, so let's plug it in there and see. Y minus 1 equals 4 times 1.9 minus 2. Oh my gosh, I don't have a calculator. That's okay, you can do this. 1.9 minus 2 is negative 0.1. Y minus 1 equals negative 0.4, and if I add 1 to it, negative 0.4 plus 1 is 0.6, right? 1 minus 0.4. Okay, so there you have it. Okay, f is defined above, c and d are constants, f is differentiable at x equals 2, which is this guy right here. What's c plus d? Okay, well, chances are I'll need to figure out what c and d are and just add them together. Now, one thing to always keep in the back of your mind, if it's differentiable, that means it's also continuous. So if it's continuous, that means if I plug in 2 into both of these, they'll be equal, because these have to meet, right? The top function and the bottom function, to be continuous, have to meet somehow. And if it's differentiable, that means they have to meet smoothly, okay? Which means the derivative of the bottom one has to be the same as the derivative of the top one. So, so for continuous, put it down here. So for continuous, I know that if I plug 2 in, I get c times 2 plus d must equal, and if I plug 2 into the bottom one, I get 4 minus c times 2. Okay? And if it's differentiable, I'm going to take the derivative of the top, and I get c. Actually, let me go ahead with, I don't want to make this too messy. Let's do this. F prime of x. The top is c when x is less than or equal to 2. And the bottom is 2x minus c for x greater than 2. So the derivatives have to be equal when it's different, if it's differentiable, because it has to be smooth, like I said up here. So plug in 2 for here, and it's going to be c. And plug in 2 down here, and you get 2 times 2 is 4 minus c. So I get 2c equals 4, c equals 2. Plug that into the top one up here, and I get 2 times 2 plus d equals 4 minus 2 times 2. We get 4 plus d equals 4 minus 4, which is 0. So I get 4 plus d equals 0, so d is negative 4. So c plus d is 2 minus 4 is negative 2. Okay, there you go. A lot of work for one little problem. What's the slope of the line tangent to the curve arctangent? Remember, arctangent is inverse tangent. So y prime is 1 over 1 plus 4x squared times the chain rule. Okay, common mistake for students is to go 1 over 1 plus 4x squared. Okay, so don't do that. That's 1 plus 16x squared times 4, so that's going to be 4 on the top. And when x is 1/4, plug in 1/4. 1 plus 16 times 1/4 squared, 1 over 16, which is 4 over, those cancel, so you get 1 plus 1 is 2, which is 2. Okay. Okay. 27. Shown above is a slope field for which of the following? Let's see, on these it's best to look at these where it's 0 first of all. So the slope field is 0. These are the slopes, which the derivative are the slopes. So the slopes are 0 whenever x equals negative 1 gives slope equal to 0. So which ones, if I plug in x equal negative 1, do you get a slope of 0? Not this one, right? If you plug in x equals negative 1, do you get a slope of 0 here? Nope. X equals negative 1, do you get a slope? You know what, I should probably factor this out to make sure. So if I factor out a y, I get x minus 1. So if I plug in a negative 1, I don't get 0, so that's okay. If I factor out a y here, I get x plus 1. Okay, that does give me a 0 if I plug in negative 1 here. So it could be C. If I factor out an x, well, if I plug in x equals negative 1, it depends what y is if this is 0. So it can't be that one. Because remember, I'm getting 0 slope for any value of y. This is negative 1, 1, negative 1, 2, negative 1, 3, and so forth. And this one, if I plug in negative 1 here, I get 0. So it could be either one of those. Well, now look at this one. When y equals 0, the slope equals 0, right? Right across here. So which one of these, if y is 0? Well, this one's certainly here. If y is 0, the product is 0. Down here, if y is 0, it depends what x is if it's 0. Okay, for instance, for the point, just to show you here, well, for 1, 0, then the slope is going to be 2 cubed is 8, okay, which is not 0, so it can't be that guy. Okay, and last one on this part, we've got f is differentiable. They give us all this information. G is differentiable. G is the inverse. What's g prime of 3? So what they're really asking is what's f inverse of 3 prime? The derivative of the inverse. Well, I know the derivative of the inverse is the reciprocal of the original function. Now the question is, what's the original function? And this is where you just have to recognize and remember the fact that, okay, what values do I plug into the inverse? Those are the y values. So I got to plug the x values back into the original function. And if you recognize here, this is the point f of 6 equals 3. This is my y value. This is my x value. So you could even write this. 6, 3 is on f. So I can, f inverse of 3 is 6. That makes sense. So this is a corresponding x value that goes with the y value of 3. And that's 1 over f prime of 6 is negative 2. So my answer is negative 1/2. Okay, that makes sense? Hope so. There you go. And now we jump up to 76. Why they number them that, I don't know. Probably to separate them on your answer sheet. But that is all for the non-calculator multiple choice.